Let me introduce myself. My name is Colleen Delange. I have been a licensed realtor for 22 years. Makes me feel very old when I say it that way. And I have also worked at a couple forms companies. And so when it comes to forms and signing, I probably know a little bit more than most people. So I'm going to take you through some of the new great improvements that they've made in Authentisign. Authentisign basically got a facelift a few months back. And you should be able to see my Authentisign screen at this point. But basically their UI changed, meaning just the user interface, but it's now 60% faster. It's crisping up the documents. Before, if you brought a PDF in, sometimes that PDF could be a little grainy. Sometimes it may have looked a little kind of blurry. Well, they've actually corrected that. They're now using high resolution documents. So you'll find that not only is Authentisign 2.0 faster, but it's actually easier to use. It's got some new great features, and we're going to cover all of those today. All right, well, let's get started. So some of the new enhancements in Authentisign 2.0 is one, you can actually change names in real time. So what that means is, let's say, and I had this happen not too long ago, I actually spelled my client's name incorrectly. So I sent out the documents for signing, and then I'm like, oh geez, I spelled Joe Schmageggi's name wrong. I gotta correct it, which means I had to cancel the envelope, which means that basically I had to go in and resend everything. Well, the good news is you now can correct the name by clicking on the contact, and you can do it in real time. So meaning up to the point where they sign it, you can make that correction. The signing process has gotten easier for the clients. A lot of times if they were signing on their phone, there was that extra complete button. And sometimes if they had their phone blown up, they could not see that final complete button, and therefore the documents didn't get automatically sent back to you because basically that last step wasn't complete. Well, now you'll find that that is gone. It does adjust more to the device that they're signing on. So whether it's a tablet, whether it's their phone, whether it's their computer, so that button doesn't get hidden, and they've made the steps a lot easier for clients to actually sign. Of course, you can still add forms and documents, but they've cleaned up that UI, so there's no more dashboard or wizard where you had to go in and you had to open each section. Now everything is laid out on one screen so that you can jump around as you need to. You don't have to open each Authentisign section up. You'll also find that you can now add things to your signing tabs, meaning if you always want the date to be right next to your signature, or maybe the time, or maybe you don't want that, you can actually correct that and then save it. So the next time you add a buyer or a seller, it's automatically saved that way. Another feature that I really like that they added is feedback. So if, let's say, you are working with an attorney, and you set that attorney up to review the documents, and then the attorney finds something on the document, they can either accept or reject that document, so their client gets it or doesn't get it. Well, before, you'd have to get that rejection, you'd have to pick up the phone, you'd then have to go over and find out why that attorney basically rejected that document. Well, the good news is you don't have to do that anymore, because they can actually leave feedback of why they didn't sign the document or questions for you. So instead of having to pick up the phone, you could see that maybe the closing date was incorrect or something like that. All right, so we're going to talk also about how it's now 60% faster. Now, the old Authentisign is going to be going away at the end of the year. So December 31st, it will be sunset. But right now, you can actually bounce between the old version and the new version. So if you are in a hurry, if you're like me and you've got like 2 minutes, you're trying to type up an addendum, and you just want to go to what you know, you can still do that. However, I encourage you to try the new one because I think you'll like it. It's a lot easier and it's a lot faster. And I think you'll find, especially with it going away in just a little over 2 months, we want to make sure that we're testing out the new UI. So when that does go away, that you know exactly how to send it to your client and what your client is going to see. But as you can see, it's a very clear and simple interface. A lot of the tags are the same, but the tools have gotten easier to use as well. Again, as I mentioned, whether they're signing on their phone or their tablet, you'll see that it actually adjusts to that device. And then no more do they have to go in and find that complete box, which again was kind of a struggle for some of my clients where it might be a little cut off the screen. They struggled and then I didn't get those documents back. So as I mentioned too, if you are an attorney and you are rejecting a document, or even a signer, let's say the signer does notice his name is spelled incorrectly, or the counteroffer price is not correct, they can actually type that in and it will immediately send it to you, the agent, so you don't have to pick up the phone and call. All right, so let's start off on the transaction desk side. I know that there are some MLSs that are no longer offering Transaction Desk for one reason or another. Some are adding new programs. But we've talked to our members and our members really love Transaction Desk. So we are keeping Transaction Desk. And if you are with another MLS that is not providing Transaction Desk any longer, we will actually move your Transaction Desk files over so that you don't miss a beat in your business. So keep in mind, if you are with another MLS, or maybe you're a dual member and you want to make sure that you still have access to your transactions through that other MLS, we will be happy to move those files over for you so that you have everything in Transaction Desk, because we know our members really enjoy using that program and they don't want to change. All right. So when you are using Transaction Desk, if you've never used Transaction Desk before, the hardest part of using Transaction Desk is simply knowing where to start. And it kind of comes down to, if you are on the sales side, if you are working with the buyer, then that information is really already in the MLS for you. So for instance, if you are working with a buyer, the home is probably in the MLS. You've probably made an appointment on it. You've probably showed it. The last thing you want to have to do is fill out all of your purchase contracts, right, with the same information that's already in the MLS. If you follow this simple process of using the quick action link, or what I call the easy button, it will actually pull 90% of that property information directly into your purchase contracts. So again, if you just simply use the easy button, when you run your mouse over it, it'll say start a transaction. It's actually the Instanet logo. And when you click that, what it's designed to do is it's designed to send all the information from this listing over into Transaction Desk. So what that means is I don't have to go in and I don't have to fill out those 35 fields of information that should already be there. It's already there for me. All right, so let's actually do that. So we're going to pretend that we just showed Steve Pouliot's listing and we are ready to write our offer. We're going to click on that easy button, and now you're going to see that auto population start to take place. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to ask us, well, what do you, I'm just going to go ahead and close out the quick start guide here for Authentisign. What are you actually doing? So we're writing a purchase contract on something that's listed. So of course we're going to go in and we're going to apply our template. If you don't have templates, I strongly encourage you to set some up. You can set them up as an agent, or what we prefer is if you are a broker or an office manager, set them up for all of your agents. That way they don't have to guess or try to find forms. They can simply apply your package of forms, and it's going to have all your required forms so that nothing gets missed. So I'm going to say, because I'm with a particular company, I'm going to use my company's buyer package. What it's going to do is it's going to pull in those forms, and then I just have to tell it who I am. So if it's listed by Steve, then I'm going to be the selling agent. But of course, you could be representing both sides. Maybe you're doing a dual transaction, so you could be both. Maybe you're a transaction coordinator, so maybe you're neither. So you can actually just pick from the dropdown who you're representing. And I'm going to go ahead and use the wizard. You don't always have to use the wizard, keep in mind. Once you go through this class today, I'm going to show you how to set up everything. So if you don't want to click through the wizard, I'm going to show you how to set everything up on one convenient dashboard. So when you are ready to add a contact or ready to find additional forms, everything is there. Now, one thing I like about the new Authentisign 2.0 as well, when you have your clients signing those documents, it is actually going to drop those documents directly back into the file for you. So as an agent, I just had a client, I sold them the house on the buy side. They called me 2 years later and they now want to list it. So I can go right back into their closed file. I can see all their signed documents, all their title work. I can see what they paid for the home because everything's there. Everything that they signed was automatically deposited right back into the transaction file. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit here. What you can see now, though, is it's actually starting to autofill that information for you. And not only is it filling it out in the wizard, but of course it's auto-populating your forms. So what we're seeing here is it's bringing over the street address, it's bringing over the city, it's bringing over the county, the subdivision, the lengthy legal description, where it's located, the tax information. So it's already starting to autoflow or autofill in all of that information so that I don't have to fill it out. Now, of course, if we're on the buy side, there is something that we can't autofill from anywhere, and that's obviously what does the buyer want to pay? So keep in mind, this wizard is generic. Whether you're on the listing side or you're on the selling side, it's going to be the same. However, down here, I now want to fill out my side of the transaction, and I obviously want to put in the purchase price. Now, I am never lucky enough to get, what is this one listed for? I think this is listed for $2.8 million. So I'm never lucky enough to, I'm sorry, $3 million. I'm never lucky enough to get in that price range. So I always get to borrow these cool listings from different people that attend the calls. But here we can see what the listed price is. And now I want to put in what's our buyer going to pay. So we're going to say that he's going to pay, wish I could write a purchase agreement for that amount, I'd be absolutely thrilled. But anyway, so you're going to go ahead and put in your purchase price and then your EMD. And that way it carries over to your documents. If you're in a counter situation and you need an additional EMD, you can put that in. But here's your first time-saving tip and technique, okay? I'm all about the little cheats that save time. If you scroll down, even though it looks like it's on the listing information side, if you will scroll down and do property includes, let's say you are asking for the stove and the built-in microwave, maybe you're asking for, pool equipment, whatever it happens to be. If you will take the time to put that in the property includes area, what that will do is carry it over to all of your purchase agreements where it's asking for those inclusions. Same thing with property excludes. If you're asking for, let's say, a play structure or a above ground pool maybe to be removed, you could actually put that in property excludes. And then, of course, that's going to carry over to your transaction forms too. All right, the one I don't use in here, and I'm just going to tell you how, for me, because at my brokerage, we wouldn't use this generally, I generally don't fill in the total financing field. And I'll tell you why. It's actually, because it's a nationwide program, it's formatted really for a dollar value. But for me as an agent, there are times I'll do, if I'm doing, let's say, FHA financing, it might be 3%. So this is really the only field in the whole wizard that I generally don't fill out. And I generally fill that information directly into the contract, so I don't have to go back and change it. But it's just however your brokerage has that structured. Some brokers don't want percentages and others are okay with that. So that's the only one I don't use is the total financing. But everything else I try to fill in. And that way, when I go to my forms, 90% of everything I need is right there for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit next. Then from here, I am obviously going to put in my dates. Now we're going to do this kind of run of the mill. And what I mean is some agents are very advanced in technology. Some are really just kind of getting started in something like this. So we're going to kind of keep this, middle of the road today. But keep in mind, there are some very cool advanced features that you can do with these transaction dates. And what I mean is if you are, let's say, listing a property, we'll kind of flip gears for a minute. If you're listing a property and you want an automatic reminder, let's say to go to your team, or you want an automatic reminder to install the sign or put on the lockbox, or, I always forget till the last minute to order the final water read. So that's something that I've now automated. So not only can you, of course, fill the dates in for, when your offer, when your closing date, you can, of course, do that. But if you're a more advanced user, you may even want to go over to the tasks area and set up tasks or reminders that automatically generate an email to you. So for instance, in this example, 2 days after I listed the property, it would send me an automated reminder to make sure I had the sign installed and the lockbox on the front door. And hopefully, Roger, hopefully you got your lockbox. I apologize for the long delay. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump to, got our dates in, we're going to jump to what I think really in Authentisign 2.0 and Transaction Desk is the most important screen, and that's really your contacts. If you take the time to fill out your contacts properly, meaning you're saying if they're the seller or the buyer or the attorney, if you just do this one step, it will save you probably 10 minutes of tagging forms. I kid you not. This is the most important step. So as you can see, we've got our listing agent who we're going to pretend is Steve Pouliot for our call today. So we're going to say he's the listing agent, and we're going to say now you should see yourself as the selling agent. You should see both of your brokerages. But what you want to ensure is that you've got your contacts added. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to click the add button. There are 4 different choices. We could go ahead and add ourselves, but we've already taken care of that for you. So you don't have to do that step. If you have a contact in Google Contacts in your Google account or your Google Drive, you could pull those in. If it's a client you've worked with before, you can pull them from your existing contacts. But here's the really important one. In this case, we just want to create a brand new transaction contact. So we're just going to put a brand new person in here. The most important thing to do here is to fill out what is the type. Is it a buyer? Is it a seller? Is it the broker? Who is it? Now, as you can see, we fill out the brokerage information for you and the agent information, but I want to go in and I want to select that this is my buyer, because it's going to know where to put all the buyer's signatures, and it's even faster in Authentisign 2.0. So we're going to call this Barry Buyer. And of course, you would put Barry Buyer's email address in, right? And I'm just going to put mine in there for the sake of time here. Now down here, now really for most of my buyers, this is really all I'm putting in. I'm putting in their first name, their last name, their email. You could put an address if you want to do mailing labels out of here later. You could do all of that. But really what I want to do is I want to put in my buyer contact information and I want to hit save. However, if you are working with a power of attorney, if you are working with a trust or a corporation, you can also type in that trust name or power of attorney, how you want it to be pre-printed underneath the signature line. So let's say Steve is going to be the power of attorney for Sally Sue. If I type it in that way, underneath my signature line, that's how it's going to read. So if you have an attorney who wants, I have an attorney who we listed a house a few weeks back, and he said, I even want the signature to say, he wanted it, the trustee and the date of the trust underneath that signature line. So keep in mind, if you have a power of attorney, a trust, or it's a corporation, you can do that legal name, which is actually going to put that underneath the signature line. And if they are signing in a different name than the contact record, you can put that in the preferred signing. So again, this would be like if it's Barry Buyer, power of attorney for Sally Sue. If the attorney wants them to sign that way, then that's how you would set up the preferred signature. So that's really what these 3 are for. 90% of the deals, you'll probably just put in the buyer's name and the email address. But if you do need to use the legal name, meaning have it spelled out for a trust or for a corporation, something along those lines, that's what these 3 are for. Once you hit save, it's going to go ahead and immediately add that buyer into your contacts. And what you'll see is it now knows where the buyer is supposed to sign all of the documents. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to next. Now, I'm going to be honest that one of the biggest challenges I had when I started using TransactionDesk was when I got my license, a form was a document. So this kind of confused me. So let me kind of explain. So on this screen, it's talking about the fillable forms, meaning if I do a little preview over here, it's the forms that you're going to be able to go in and you're going to be adding information into the fields, okay? However, when they said documents were different than forms, I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. I thought they were the same thing. Documents in TransactionDesk are anything outside the system that you're bringing in, such as, let's say you have a home warranty form, or you have some pre-title work, or maybe you have a copy of their EMD, something along those lines. That's considered a document. So let's jump back for just a moment. We're going to talk about forms first. The advantage of using the templates, as you can see, is it just dropped in all the forms that I need for my brokerage. So these are all the brokerage forms that are required for me to turn in. So if you're a broker on this call, and I know we have a couple, you want to make sure that you have your packets set up for your office so the agents don't have to go and hunt down the forms. It's also, I have a little OCD, so I kind of like my forms in a certain order, I'm going to be honest. So you can drag and drop those forms into any order. So for me, I was always taught right from the beginning to make sure your disclosure is the very first thing that they see. So I've got my agency disclosure right up here at the top. If you don't have a template set up, I'm going to show you how to do that today, so don't worry. However, if you are looking for one particular form that maybe isn't here, you can always go over here to the right where it says Add. You can search by library, but quite honestly, there are so many forms here in all of these different libraries. It's a little crazy. So if you are looking for, let's say, an FHA form, just simply go to the search area, hit FHA, and what you can see is it immediately brought up all the FHA forms, and now I can choose the one that I'm looking for. So keep in mind, if you're looking for a particular form, let's say I'm looking for the Gross Point FHA addendum, I'm going to simply select that. You can see it drops it right in the basket for me, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Add, and now it's brought it right into my forms. Over to the right, you've got, if you're not sure which form you're looking for and you want to take a look at it real quick, you could actually just do a form preview. And I now can go in and ensure that, yep, that's the form I'm looking for. Now, some of the cool features that they added, and I use these more really in the documents area, but I'm going to show it to you here since it's kind of front and center where we are. If you are doing, let's say, a counteroffer, and you wanted to mark up a document, let's say that you wanted to change something, and I'm gonna actually use our purchase agreement here. So let's say that this was a counteroffer. I had somebody email it to me, and I brought it into the documents area. That's really where I would use it the most. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. But if there's something you want to mark up, maybe you want to say, nope, we're not leaving the stove and microwave here. You can actually click, it kind of looks like a painter's palette, if you will, but it's actually the document markup tool. And what that allows you to do is counter this right in TransactionDesk. So let's say, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit, make it a little easier to read. So let's say that Steve got your offer and he says, you know what, Colleen, we're not so much going to leave the stove and microwave. Well, he can actually counter it by using the tools that are at the top. So maybe he is countering that the stove and microwave. Now, check with your broker on the policy for countering. I know sometimes some of the associations, you have to have a special addendum. Where I am, we just have to have all the parties' initial next to the changes. So make sure you check with your broker on what that is. Don't want to get anybody in trouble. But the next thing is, if we're looking, let's say, at the price. So we've got our, I think they put 28 million, and that's quite an offer. So if I want to change the price, if I want to counter the price, or maybe I just want to make a clean copy of that price, you can always use the text box tool, which literally allows you to create a text box. So let's say I just realized that it's 28 million, it's supposed to be 2 million. So we're going to do, again, I never seem to get in this price range. Would be really nice, but so we're going to make that change right here. And now, if I want to lay that onto that area, I can, of course, do that. I can drag that. But as you can see, it's kind of messy looking. You can see behind it. So what I encourage you to do is right-click. You can change it from transparent to white. Of course, I need to change that font size because you can clearly see it does not match. So I want to bring that font size down. You could make it bold or italicized. Again, you could even change the font. So if you need to get in a tight area like this, you're just going to do one of those text boxes, and then I would suggest making your text box smaller so that you can overlay it right in the right area. And of course, you can lay it right on top. So if you are doing a counteroffer, or if you are maybe even sending the offer again and you just want to change the price before sending, I always like to recommend doing it in the TransactionDesk side, not the Authentisign side, because that will give you basically your document history. So I can go back and see what we changed, where we started. One of the other things too, and there's a whole bunch of things, if you got your client, let's say a 2-year home warranty, you can go ahead and highlight things from here. There's a highlighter tool. There's a markup tool. I was kind of old school. I was always taught, you should never have any blank lines. You can put Redux on the line, which just says that, so nobody else fills anything into that particular line. So all those tools are right here at the top. But there's one tool that I absolutely love. I use it all the time. I use it for even non-real estate related stuff. And it's basically the document slicer, if you will. So I'm going to click on the document slicer. I'm going to go ahead and save my changes here. The document slicer is perfect if you're like me and I'm always driving to different associations and teaching classes. And sometimes I'll get an offer in, or sometimes I'll send my buyer, my buyer's agency agreement and the purchase agreement and a bunch of things. And now I want to turn around and send it to, let's say, Roger, but I don't want Roger to have my confidential buyer's agency agreement. Okay, I want it because that has his name and phone number and stuff for my brokerage, but that's really not something I want to send the co-oping agent. But I'm driving along in the car, right? And I'm thinking, oh, I got it all in one. I got one big PDF. Well, that's really what the document slicer is for. So let's pretend that this is a buyer's agency agreement and the purchase agreement and a bunch of other things. I want to give our friend Roger just the purchase agreement. So I can actually say, okay, I'm going to send Roger just these pages, but I'm going to make sure that my buyer's agency doesn't go to Roger. So you can pick the pages that you want. And then all you're going to do is you're going to save. And I always do a save as, because I always like to keep my original intact. And I like to make a new copy that I can email over to Roger. So I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to call this counter for. Okay. And I want to now open that document up. So basically we're taking this 7-page document down to 6 pages. We're going to cut that buyer's agency agreement off. So, but basically what I've done is I've made a new PDF, and you can do this even in your app. And yes, there is an app for your phone as well. You can do this in the app. I find it's very, very easy to do. And now I can send just the particular pages that I want to send Roger. So I don't have to send my confidential documents. I can send just what I'm looking for to Roger. Now, another cool thing that we had that Brian built in for us, Brian is our Chief Technology Officer. When this started happening, I thought, well, this is great, but what about those seller's disclosures? What about those lead-based paint disclosures? What about those other things that you still need to have in every transaction? Before, we had to go into Paragon, we had to go to the disclosures, we had to download the disclosures, right? Then after we downloaded the disclosures, we had to go into TransactionDesk, we had to re-upload them. It was really very painful. Well, now I'm happy to say that when you are in TransactionDesk, we automatically bring those documents over for you. So any documents that are attached to the associated documents, those will automatically be in the documents for you. So remember, when you're starting on the buy side, you're using that quick action icon so that it's pulling not only the property information, but it's pulling what's under the associated docs as well. So as you can see, Tom Lipinski does a fantastic job with this. He not only has his Lakeshore features here, he's got his seller's disclosure. He has his feature sheet here. I guess if I had a $3 million property, I probably would put a feature sheet into. But he's got his feature sheet here. He's got his seller's disclosures. He's got his buyer COVID forms here. Everything carries over. So if there is, let's say, an offer worksheet, some agents are using those. It will pull those over. So if it's a referral, he's even got a referral form in here. But if I click on this seller's disclosure right here, This is the actual seller's disclosure that Tom's clients filled out about their home. So when I'm sending things through Authentisign 2.0, it's sending the purchase agreements, the seller's disclosure. They can sign everything all at once. So I don't have to go find it from different places. It's already dropped directly in the transaction for you. And I love that because it was very painful to do it, to go back and download it and pull it in, things like that. All right, so next, how do you bring in those outside documents? So of course, we're migrating the associated docs and whatever else is attached in that associated docs section. But what if you have some pre-title, or what if you have a copy of the EMD check? Or what if you have a home warranty form that they signed? Well, now I want to bring those additional pieces into my transaction. So what I want to do is I want to click the Add button. And by the way, you can now drag and drop up to 20 files at one time right into your transaction. I think you'll find it's very fast. I'm just going to go to my downloads here real quick for the sake of time. Let's say I wanted to add this Helen flyer to my listing on Helen. I'm simply going to drag that over onto that bar, and it's that quick. It will immediately load. So if you have a listing file folder on your desk, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to click on that Add button. If I wanted to find files from my computer, I'd simply click on that drag and drop bar, and I could go in and bring in files. You know, as you can see, I got some listing photos here. Maybe I want to bring those in. Maybe I've got some a flyer that I created. I can just click on it. Again, you can drag and drop them if that's easier, but you can pull in 20 files at one time. Makes it so much easier, especially if you've got like a big listing file, or if you've done you know, some great feature sheets, things like that. You can go ahead and pull those in quickly. So keep in mind, anytime you want to add outside documents, you're going to actually click on that Add button and then just drag and drop them. Quite honestly, is my favorite way to do it. There's also, now I'm going to be honest, I don't really do a lot of faxing. I think faxing has really gone away. I don't really know of anybody who faxes things anymore. But one thing I really do like is this fax back cover sheet. Now, it's not really for fax. I don't use it for faxing. It is for faxing, but I use it more on the storing of documents side. So basically, your faxing cover sheet that you see here is barcoded to this specific transaction. So if I have one of those huge closing packages from the title company, I generally will print this off and simply fax it to the number that's here. So it's going to be right here. When they do that, or you could email it if you prefer to do it that way, but what it does is it actually reads the barcode and it says, okay, this belongs to transaction 205 Lakeshore. It then takes that whole big closing stack and it puts it in the file for you. So I don't have to wait for it to be scanned, now download it, and then try to move it into the file. It actually sends it directly into the file for you. And it will send you an email confirmation that it's been added to your file. So although I don't really do faxing anymore, what I do really like is being able to just hit the fax button with this fax cover sheet and have it go right into my file, especially if it's a lengthy or big file. Okay, so we've gone really through the entire transaction wizard. And I know you're probably thinking by now, oh, that lady with the big hair, where's the forms? We haven't seen one form yet. Well, the good news is everything is now auto-populating directly into the forms. So we're going to go there next. One of your second time-saving tip and technique is you're not going to want to use that wizard every single time, right? Once you get really good in TransactionDesk, I want to be able to do all of those same things right from one convenient dashboard. So when I said before I wanted to add a buyer, I want to be able to do that same thing by clicking on the buyer box or the contact box, and I want to create a new buyer. So maybe Barry's married. We're going to create buyer number 2. We're going to call this Bubba buyer. Whatever, whomever it would be. And now I, of course, want to say that it's the buyer. I want to put in their email address, but I can do the same things that I did in the wizard right from one convenient screen. However, out of the box, the screen is not built for you. They've got a bunch of stuff in here you'll never use. So here's your little tip for your time-saving tip number 2. Click on this lock. that's going to open up your dashboard. And what you want to have on your dashboard is, I like the overview. I like my contacts. I like to be able to add a form with one click, maybe add a document. But most importantly, especially with the new 2.0, you want to make sure you've added the Authentisign box, because anything your clients sign will automatically be dropped back in this box. So you can not only see the status of the signing right from your transaction, but you get a copy of everything they sign right here for you. So it's very important. And it's really easy to drag things into your dashboard, by the way. You just open up that lock. You're going to grab what you're looking for. And as soon as you let go, it's usually going to drop it at the bottom. If there's something you don't want on your dashboard, like they give you checklists, no one in my history of doing this for 10 years has ever used the checklist. So if you're not using the checklist, simply hit the X, it will remove it. And now you're working with just the boxes that you want. So again, I recommend the overview, the contacts, the forms, the documents, and Authentisign. Once you've got it set up the way you want, click on that lock. It's going to lock it into place and you're good to go. So basically on the purchase side, now all of my forms are dropping into place because I used my template. And I now want to go in and let's say we want to start working with those forms. We're going to just click into the form name. It's going to pop those forms right up for me. And now I can go in and add in anything that was not added. If you want to jump to another form, right at the top, you'll see transaction forms. I want to look at my purchase agreement now. I'm going to click on that form. And now I can verify all the auto population and add in anything remaining. But what you can see is most everything is already filled out for me. It's already putting in the legal description, the address, the listing agent name, the selling agent name. Oh, looks like Debbie's adding some great cheat sheets for us. Thank you, Debbie. So there, Debbie is adding some cheat sheets into the cheat sheet area. That's what I saw. Yep, she actually added in how to create templates, how to send the seller's disclosure. So she added those in your GoToWebinar box. So if you want to download those and go back to them and use them as a resource, they're all loaded up for you. All right, so remember how I said if you add in inclusions like the appliances that you wanted to be left, here they are. So you can see that's already pulling that directly into my purchase contracts. It's pulling in the legal description. All of that is carrying over. So there's very little that I actually have to go in and fill out. Most of that's already done for me. If I go up to File, of course, I can save these. I can copy forms. And an agent recently asked me, why in the world would you ever copy a real estate form? Which I thought was, by the way, a very good question. I usually do a seller's net out in TransactionDesk. And I usually do one at a high price and then one where I think they should be, and then one maybe at a lower price just to show them what they're going to have in their pocket. So in that case, I would just copy that form and then I can go in, the address is going to carry over, a lot of the fees like the warranty, things like that are going to be the same. I can just go in and tweak it and save that copy. So that's kind of a good example of why you may want to copy a form. Or if you're maybe doing another addendum. You can also watermark forms in here. You can print forms, obviously send forms either via email, via fax. You can mark up the forms from here. So pretty much all of the basics. However, I have to tell you, I am a huge fan of the clauses, and I encourage brokers to use the clauses that are in TransactionDesk. What I mean by that is my broker is always saying, Colleen, you're not an attorney. Don't create your own legal language. Just use what we've already set up for you. And that's always a great idea because sometimes you get the language just perfect, or sometimes, you know, you'll see, especially if you have a new agent in your office, they may not know the particular way to spell out concessions or a particular, a particular situation. So if you are a broker, I encourage you to set up clauses for your company. If you go to the clause library, you can set them up on an office basis or a brokerage basis. I'm going to just use my personal ones because it keeps me from having to type a lot. I hate having to type in a webinar. So if I wanted to say something like the buyer has 7 to 10 days to complete their home inspection, or if there was something I needed to add, I can simply select it. I don't have to recreate all of that language. If I wanted to say, maybe I have a company home warranty that I use, and I want to say it can't exceed this particular amount, something along those lines, or maybe seller concessions. All you want to do is select from what's already pre-created for them. All I have to do is hit OK. And you can even make folders to separate them so they can find them quickly. But all I want to do, so maybe not to exceed, the home warranty is not to exceed X amount of dollars. You see how I can actually put that in quick, especially if it's lengthy, if you have an affiliation that you're making your agents type in, like an affiliation addendum, you can actually store all that right in the clauses, and they can just with one click insert it. All right, so that is really the whole purchase side. We've kind of gone over from the beginning, pulling it from Paragon to creating the forms and walking through that transaction. However, as I mentioned in the beginning, the hardest part of TransactionDesk is really just knowing where to start. If you are on the buy side, you really always want to start within the MLS because we've got that easy button right here for you. But knowing Steve Pouliot the way I do, he's a perfectionist when he's taking a new listing. He wants to make sure all the information is accurate. And maybe when I put that listing in a few years ago, maybe it wasn't right. Maybe I had the square footage wrong, or maybe he doesn't really want to copy from what I put in. He wants to actually pull right from the tax records to make sure that his listing goes in with all the right information. So in order to do that, that's when you're going to start within TransactionDesk. So in order, if you've never logged into TransactionDesk before, you're going to find TransactionDesk under your resources, which is kind of like your toolbox within Paragon. So you will see under online forms, which is right over here, TransactionDesk and Authentisign. Okay, but Steve wants to make sure he's pulling directly from the property information to make sure everything is done, you know, I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and the information is right. So that's where we're going to go. We're going to go to add, but there is a trick here. So let me show you. So we are going to pretend that we are listing 41539 Wessel Drive. By the way, I do always recommend adding the property address. A lot of people say, well, I like to do their name. If you want to do their name, that's fine, but make sure that you're adding the dash, like Sally Seller, because otherwise, if that client buys more than one property from you, it's probably really hard to find if you've got 4 or 5 all named Sally Seller, right? So now I want to apply my listing packet. Again, my whole package is already there. Because I'm applying my listing packet, it already knows, oh, you're the listing agent because you're using the listing forms, right? But here's where the good stuff gets going. I want to import, but not from the MLS. I want to import from the tax record or the property record, if you will. So I want to go down to where it says Real List. Now, Brian, who I adore, he is our, as I mentioned, our chief technical officer, and he's very, very brilliant, but he's never sold a house in his life. He can write code in his basement, really, really smart. But when he created this, he said, okay, now all you got to do is put in the tax ID. And I said, well, that doesn't help us. We don't memorize tax IDs. We know addresses, right? So here's the trick. If you go over to the right where the magnifying glass is, okay, because we don't want to have to go to a tax program, look up the information. You're going to want to pull directly from the tax information, but you can only use 3 fields, and I'll tell you why. Tax records are so exact, if you put too much information in the screen, it will always error out. So, I mean, if you fill out every one of these fields, well, then guess what? You're going to get an error. It's not going to work. So keep in mind, it's kind of like Google. The less you put in, the best result you're going to get. So what you want to do is you want to pick the county the property is located in. So it happens to be Macomb for me. And you want to put the street number and then the route street name. That's it. You just want to use those 3. So if you put in, so this happens to be Wessel Drive, leave off the drives, leave off the ways, the places, the courts, things like that. Put in just these 3 fields of information. Hit that search tax data, then you can see immediately it pulls up that record, select it, and you're starting your transaction now right from that property information. So you're going to see that same generic wizard that we just went through on the purchase side, but it does a couple cool things here. It not only is filling out the property details, so it's filling out 30 fields of information for you as far as the legal description, the tax number, all of that. So that's great because I don't want to have to go look all that up. But if I jump to the contact record, it's also pulling in the seller's name. So in my listing agreements, it's going to have all the tags where the seller's supposed to sign. So all of that's done for me. Couple cool things that we've recently added, meaning in the last couple of years. One is the data sheet upload. Okay, so if you are filling out the data sheet, and you want to send all the information from your data sheet right into making your listing in Paragon, you don't want to have to do that twice. You also don't want to have to fill out your data sheet and then wait for your admin to rekey all of that information if your admins are making your listings live. So let me show you this little trick. If you are using the data sheet, you want to fill out anything red that's required. So you want to go in and you want to fill out, you know, is it for sale? What's the price? What's the list date? Then right up here at the top is the upload listing button. What it basically does is it pulls all the required information from the data sheet and it creates a partial listing for you in Paragon. So I'm going to click, I'm going to just jump back here for a second. The upload listing button is right here. I'm going to click on that. It's then going to create a partial listing that either myself as the agent or my admin can go in and make live. Now, there's one more thing you want to do here first, and it's the reason we don't do it like other MLSs where it just immediately makes the listing live. No, I want to make sure I add my photos first, because remember, photos can take almost 24 hours to upload to some IDX sites. So where most IDX sites will get the text changes and things like that within 15 minutes, well, I want to make sure that I'm going into my partial listing. I want to make sure that I'm opening my partial listing. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to quickly find one. And I want to go in and add in things like my disclosures and my photos, and then all I have to do is hit save. As soon as I hit save, my listing is now live, and it's live in the MLS. But instead of me filling all this information into my data sheet here, and then going back and having my admin have to rekey in 200 fields of information, it's a lot easier if I just click the upload listing button, and that way there's no spelling errors, everything is coming directly from what I filled out right within the data sheet. Okay. All right, let me jump over to our questions real quick, and let's see if we have any questions yet. Nope. Okay, I think we're doing good. And Debbie, thank you. If you're on the call, thanks for adding those cheat sheets for us. Again, if you go to the handout section in the GoToWebinar panel, there's some great cheat sheets that Debbie went in and added for us today too. Okay, one of my other favorite features is if you are going on a listing appointment, many times you will send or you'll be there and you'll be standing there and they'll see the seller's disclosure, and they'll either A, not realize there's an NA column and they've filled it out incorrectly. Now they're scratching it all out, right? Or it takes them forever to fill it out. So many times I'll go measure the rooms, I come back, only half of the seller's disclosure is filled out. I want to get home and start dinner. So the idea is it's a wonderful feature to be able to send that seller's disclosure ahead. So let me show you how that works. So just going to close out of here for just a moment. So if I wanted to, and really, I only do this, by the way, for my seller's disclosures. Everything else I'm sending really as a locked PDF. But because the sellers and buyers, they don't know what should be on forms, but they really are the only one to fill out the seller's disclosure. So what I want to do is I want to send this in an unlocked format ahead of time so that they can fill it out. So there's a little trick to this, and I'm going to show it to you. So you're going to go to File and Send. We want to send these via email. And of course, again, you could do this with your seller's disclosure or maybe your seller's disclosure in lead-based paint. So I'm going to select that that's the document that I want to send via email. So I'm going to go in And I'm going to put in the recipient's name, so we'll call it Sally Seller, whatever it happens to be, and their email address. I'm just going to use mine just for the sake of time so I can actually show you what they see on their end. You could put in a different subject line, like, see you tonight for our listing appointment. You could put in a message. But instead of sending it as a locked PDF or a locked attachment, which we do for most documents, this time we want to send it as a live link, and we want to allow them to fill it out. You can even put in an expiration date. Like if you're going to list the property tomorrow, you want to make sure that you get it back by tomorrow, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send this in a fillable format so that they can fill it out. Now, when they get it, they're going to get it via email with your contact information, but it's going to be a fillable form for them. It does take about 30 seconds for them to get it. And I'm going to actually open up my email real quick so I can show you what it's going to look like, because I'm always worried, is it going to be simple enough for them to use? I want to make sure that it's very user friendly. And I think it can't get any simpler than what actually gets sent out. Remember, it does come from you with your contact information. So should they have any questions, they'll be able to see your phone number. They might have a question on, how do I fill one particular item out? So I'm going to just open my email real quick. Hopefully it comes through. Usually it takes about 30 seconds to get sent out. So, So hopefully I get that very quick. If not, we'll go on and we'll come back to when it gets sent here. All right. And sorry, I should have had my email open. It would have been even faster. All right, I was hoping I would get it very quickly, but we will move on to the next part. And as soon as I get it, I'll get a little pop up, and that way I can show it to you. Again, the idea is it's going to be, oh, it came in. I love when a plan comes together. Sorry about the delay there. All right, so we've got our invitation for signing. Let me show you what they're going to see. So they're, of course, going to see your brokerage logo at the top. And as I mentioned, they'll see your contact information down below. They get some basic instructions, but when they click on it, that's going to open that fillable form that they can go in and check things off. If they make a mistake, they also can uncheck it. So instead of having a whole column of crossouts because they didn't realize there was a not available field, they can make those corrections here. And the fields are actually open, so they can go ahead and type in them. Now they get a very streamlined version, as you can see. Their only options are print or save as a PDF. When they hit the save button, by the way, it automatically sends that back to you, the agent. You'll get an email notification that they opened the form. As you can see right down here, I'm getting that notification right now. They've opened the form, and it places that form right back in your file, filled out. Now, it doesn't allow them, a lot of people will ask me, does it allow it to be signed at the same time? And the answer is no. You can still send this form for signatures with the other forms you're sending out. But in order for it to be a legal binding signature in all 50 states, it has to be a locked document. Now, this, of course, is unlocked because they can fill it out. So what I do is I send this ahead, and then when they hit save, it gives me a chance to kind of review it to make sure everything looks correct. Then once I do that, I can send all of the documents out, including this one, for their signature. So it just makes it a little bit more convenient, but it does have to obviously be a locked document in order for it to be legal and binding in all 50 states. All right, looks like we do have a question. Oh, thank you. You guys obviously got it quicker than I did. Thank you for that. I left off the H in Yahoo. That is probably why I didn't get it the first time. So thank you. So anyway, so once you're typing, once they type in the fields and they go in and they hit that save key, that is going to allow you to see it in your TransactionDesk file. And of course, you can resend it so that you can do that complete all the way through, and that way they can sign everything at once. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so those are two of the on the listing side features that I really like. I think it's very simple for the clients to use TransactionDesk. They get that very, very streamlined view. Again, on the listing side, let me close some of these windows so you can see it. On the listing side, you have the same great tools, the markup tools, you have the document slicer, so the same great tools that we looked at before. When you are creating clauses or templates for your company, you're going to use the little gears over here to the left. You'll see some gears. And that's basically your preferences. This is also where you're going to put your branding. So if I click on my preferences here, this is where you're going to find where you can add your email signature. I simply just copy mine right out of Yahoo. And if I go down to the branding section, this is also where you want to have your banner, your photo, and your company logo. Please don't mix those up. I got a really nice email from a lady yesterday, as a matter of fact, who inadvertently added her photo to the banner section. So when I opened her email, literally I saw about 3 inches across the top of my screen of her forehead. So make sure that you put your personal photo here and then your banner, and it does give you the general specs right here at the top. And then if you are ready to set up your templates, whether you're an office manager or you're an agent, you can do it on either level. You can go to the transaction templates. And what you'll notice is any template that has 2 entities is available for the whole office to use. If you've created your own, then you're going to see a single entity like you see here. Very easy to make these transaction templates. You're simply going to click on the Add button. Do you want to make them for yourself or the entire office? Do you want to be the only one who can make changes for the office? You can choose that as well. And then you're simply going to give it a name. So because I don't want to mess up my office templates, I'm just going to call this Colleen's listing packet. And then I'm going to say I want this to be applied to any residential listings for my office or myself. Once you do that, you've given it a name. Really, the hardest part is what forms do you want to include? So if I scroll down to the forms section and I click on the plus, I'm just going to pick the particular forms that I want to be in this packet. So obviously, if I'm on the listing side, and I'm just going to go to, we'll use the gross point board here. I'm going to use all the listing side forms. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to find my seller's disclosure from MAR, I'm going to find my exclusive agency, and then all I'm going to do, and I'm just going to grab a couple for the sake of time here, I'm just going to go in and click add, and it's going to throw those into my forms. Documents, if you have an office checklist, you can add folders or documents. So if you have a checklist for your office, you can actually put maybe your office turn-in sheet or things like that. You can actually add those in. So really, that's it. There's not even a save. It will automatically remember the forms that you've created. If you are a broker with your own custom forms, there are also some broker tools in here too. So over to the left, you can actually set up Authentisign templates. You can work on, you can see what an agent's working on. You can assume an agent role. So there's a whole bunch of broker tools in here as well. All right, so now let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about Authentisign 2.0. I know, I think that's probably what everybody on the call was wondering about the most, because it does have a very different look, but I think you'll find that it's actually much easier to use. But there are a couple hidden things in the program that I think were a little more obvious before, so I want to point those out too. So whenever you're using Authentisign 2.0, the most important thing, the takeaway from today, is whatever you're sending, make sure that you are marrying it to the file that you want it to go back to. If you remember that, the rest is really a piece of cake. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to that pen icon on the left. And as you can see, I've got, here's all of my classic, anything I've done in the previous Authentisign version. But then next to classic is new, and you can bounce back and forth again up until December 31st. So you can choose whether you want to use the new Authentisign. If you're in a real hurry and you just want to bounce back because it's what you know, totally get that. Just click on the classic tab, add, and you can start. If you want to try the new, which I recommend, it will show you if things have been completed, if something was rejected. It will show you draft versions, meaning something you haven't sent yet. So let's go ahead and let's start off in the new Authentisign. The most important step, and the part I don't like about this is it says optional. It's really, don't think of it as optional. Think of this is the most important step. With the documents that you're sending, what file do you want that to be married to? So if I'm sending the documents for 205 Lakeshore, I want it to be automatically deposited back into 205 Lakeshore. So I'm also going to do my signing name. Excuse me. I'm going to call it 205 Lakeshore Purchase Agreement. Okay. And I've married it to the document so it knows where to pull the information from and where to put the information back into. The new interface, I think, is a little cleaner, a little bit easier to understand. You don't have to open up all of those drop-down sections because everything is laid out right here. So first and foremost, who do you want to sign the document? So you could add yourself, but remember, we already did that in TransactionDesk. If you use TransactionDesk to the fullest and you fill out the majority of the information there, think of it as doing the heavy lifting in TransactionDesk, then Authentisign 2.0 should be just a couple of clicks and you're ready to send. So what I want to do is I want to say, I'm going to pull from my transaction contacts because I've already filled in the buyer's name, right? So I'm going to say, I want to send this to Barry Buyer. I want to send it to me as the selling agent so I can witness and sign it. And maybe I even want to send it on to the listing agent. So I'm preparing my offer. My buyer is signing it, and I want to turn it around and have it go to the listing agent now. Now, here's the only thing to note. If you are adding the other side of the transaction, you want to make sure that you are setting the signing order. What that means is if you don't turn this on, it's basically sending it to all three parties at one time. Well, the listing agent certainly does not want it before the buyer has signed it. I assure you, they want to make sure that the offer they're getting has been signed by the buyer. So I want to put them in the logical real estate order, right? So I want it to go from Barry. I particularly like the buyer to sign it to come back to me so I can check it over one time, make sure I didn't miss any initials, anything like that. And then I want it to go to that listing agent. Really, the hardest part of this is how are they signing it? Most people are going to be able to sign it remotely, meaning it's going to come via email, whether it's on their phone, their tablet, whether it's coming to a traditional desktop computer, whatever it is, they're getting it in the form of an email and they're signing it that way. If you have an attorney who isn't signing but wants to review the documents, and accept or reject them. So let's say you have an attorney and he says, send me the purchase agreement to review before it goes to the buyer. Well, this is a really good way to do that because it's tracking that the attorney did review them, the time it was open, and whether they accepted or rejected the documents. So if you're working with an attorney, definitely use that reviewer role. The last confuses people because it says CC, but it's not like CC on an email. On an email, if you CC someone, they get exactly what the other parties are seeing. This is a little bit different. This is really set up for title companies or lenders or people that you want to get a fully executed document. So what I mean by that is if all the people that I have said are supposed to sign this document, if we have a deal, it can CC over to the title company with a personal message from me, like this happens to be a divorce situation maybe, or maybe separate closing rooms are in order, or please let me know if you need anything else. But basically, if all the parties that you've said need to sign don't sign, it never goes to the CC. Because obviously, if we don't have a deal, I don't want to start, working on the title, right? If we don't have a deal, maybe my mortgage lender doesn't need to, do anything. So what I want to do is I want to CC them only if we have a deal, and then it will deliver the copies of what's been signed along with my personal message to just that party. Okay, so really 90% of the time, you're going to just use the remote signer. You're all good. We've got our parties pulled from the transaction. And all I got to do now is select those three parties. Here's where I want to make sure I have the order right, because again, I don't want to send them to the listing agent before my buyer has signed them. So my order is going to be the buyer. Then I want to witness the contracts and make sure I've got all my I's dotted, T's crossed. And then, of course, I want it to be delivered automatically to the listing agent, so I don't have to touch it. I talk to many agents who say, well, I get it back, then I got to turn it around, I got to send it to my admin, I got to turn it around and send it to the listing agent. Take that step out of your equation, because you're looking at it already. You're witnessing it. You're making sure you've got all the I's dotted and T's crossed. Now it will automatically deliver it to the listing agent for you. Now, again, we're going to kind of go middle of the road today here, but there is another advanced feature called private participant role. So let's pretend for a moment that the listing agent is Roger on our call today. So Roger says, you know what, Colleen, I call him up. I say, here's what we're going to offer. He says, great, my clients will sign that, send it right over. I can actually send it in a way that Roger can review it. If he likes what he sees, he can actually simply put their email address and their names in the system, and it will allow them to continue the signing process without having to start all over. Now, I don't go over that too much because, quite honestly, in 90% of the cases, you have a counteroffer or something that needs to be changed. But keep in mind, if you're an advanced user, that's another great feature to sort of speed the process up for you. Okay, so we did the hard part. All of our parties are here. Again, you can drag and drop them by simply just grabbing those little dots and moving them into the order you want. If you are only working with your side of the transaction, remember, you can turn that signing order off. So if you're just working with the husband and wife on your side and you don't need it to go in that logical order, you can turn that on or off right here by setting the signing order. Next is, how do you add your documents or forms? Well, again, we can go ahead and click Add a Document or Form right over here. But here's the cool thing. Because it's already linked to my transaction, all of the forms from my transaction are right here. So I don't have to go download them or pull them from somewhere else. But remember how I said it was really great because the seller's disclosure sheet that Tom had in Associated Docs is right here. So not only can I add forms, but I can add the documents too. All I want to do is pick which of the documents and which of the forms I want to add. And now they're loaded for signatures. So again, I'm going through it and just deciding which of those forms that I want to add. I go down the list, hit add, and I'm good to go. Now, of course, you can add outside things. I do recommend adding them to the TransactionDesk side though, because you may want to review them later on. So if you can do the same import that we looked at in TransactionDesk. You can, of course, drag and drop them right here. It's going to immediately load for you. So not hard. We're going to talk about this in just a second, so we'll come back to that. And as you can see, it immediately dropped those forms in for me. So very easy to load additional documents. Remember, the Documents tab is right here. And now comes the little, what I thought was a little bit trickier than the previous version. So if you are, let's say, looking at the purchase agreement, and I'm just going to kind of go back and put these in a particular order. If you wanted to put them in an order, by the way, same process. You could actually move them, drag and drop them into a particular order here. Once you want to review the document, you can click the little arrow to the right. Of course, you could scroll down and see all of the pages of the document. Let's say that there's a particular page you didn't want to send. Let's say it's your buyer's agency situation again. You've got your purchase agreement, your buyer's agency. It used to be where there was a button right over here that says remove page. Well, now it's a little bit trickier because you have to know that it's these little menu dots down here, which I thought was a little bit confusing, so I wanted to point that out. If you click on the menu dots, you can delete a particular page. If you've gotten an offer from an agent and they scanned it in upside down, happens all the time, I don't know why, but if they put it in upside down, you can rotate the page from here so you can still see it. So I'm gonna rotate my page all the way around here. So, and then of course you can delete it. You can also select multiple pages and use that document slicer from here. So not really hard. Anything you really need to do with the document, you're just going to use that arrow that is over to the right. Okay. All right. So next is going to be the tools. The tools are pretty similar to what you saw before. There's a few additional, so I want to show you those. But all you're really doing is you're grabbing the initials or the signing and you're just dragging it onto the area that you want. Now, when you use this the first time, I got to tell you, I did not like this, so I'm going to show you how to fix it. If let's say you're having him sign here and you notice there's the date over here, but there's no date field for where that buyer is usually signing, and it's kind of cumbersome. You can now double click on those signing layouts and you can actually add or remove what you want to be for a particular party. Meaning if you want the name underneath, if you don't want the time or date to be laid out that way. By the way, it does this for initials. That's why I didn't like it. But you can save that as your default setting for your buyers or sellers. So for me, I don't want the date and timestamp to always be there. And I don't want the name block underneath. I just really want to be able to drag and drop those signatures. So for me, that worked better. The one I didn't like is it does that with the initials too. When you first use this, it automatically throws the initials and the date and time. I did not like that. So all you want to do is just remove those from the initial box and then save that as your default setting. And now you don't have to do it again. Okay. You can make them larger or smaller and things like that. If you have a purchase agreement like this one, you can also do the initial pages. So as you can see, every page of my purchase agreement is asking for their initials. So instead of going in, grabbing the husband's initials on every single page, then going back, doing the same thing for the wife, well, really what I want to say is at the bottom of my purchase agreement, on the right side for the buyer, I want to have their medium initials, and I just want it to be for the buyer, and I want it to just be for the purchase agreement. So what that says is it's going to start tagging all of that form, and it's going to put all the initial boxes for that husband and wife into place. So all I have to do is move them onto the box. I don't have to go and add every single one. So I'm going to place the initials, and you see how I can just drag it now, but it's on every single page. I don't have to do that for the husband and the wife if there's two parties. It just makes it a little bit easier. They've also added now where you can do an email address. So I can go ahead and put the email address in there. And one that I really like that a lot of people don't know is here. So I'm going to show it to you. Let me see if I can find a good area. That would be, okay, here's a good one. So let's say you're asking them, do they want a home warranty or do they not? We're going to just pretend for a moment that this says, do you want a home warranty? Do you not want a home warranty? Well, what generally happens is if you do an optional initial, they click both, right? Because they don't really know what they're doing. They're just clicking it because it's there and it looks clickable. But in this case, I want them to actually make a choice. So I'm doing a radio button. A radio button will only allow them to pick one of the options. So I want them to choose either yes, they are going to have a home inspection, or no, they're not going to have a home inspection, or yes, they are going to get a home warranty, or they're not going to get a home warranty. You can actually even add additional radio buttons if you want. So maybe there's a third option you want them to choose from too. But what it allows them to do is only pick one. So there's no confusion and it doesn't give you an invalid contract. Most things I do try to fill out ahead for them. But if there is something I'm on the fence with and I want them to choose, I'd rather do this than have them check both because it's optional. Okay. Auto date obviously will be that it will date it for when they're signing. So same as before. But then of course you have the markup tools here too. So if you got all the way to this section, I just did this the other day. I was so mad at myself. Got all the way to this section, realized I forgot to cross off the home warranty. You can still use the markup tools here. They work the exact same way. Actually, I think they're a little bit better than the previous version. You can still use the highlighter tool, the strike through, the text box, all of those are right here. I do try to always do it in TransactionDesk so it's recorded and I have the history, but if you forget and you get all the way to this point, it's a good option. All right. The other thing is you do have to make sure that if you've set up 3 people signing, that all 3 parties have a place to sign, or you'll get that error message. So just like before, you're going to change to Colleen is going to be signing here. And then we're going to say, let me jump down to my signing page, make it look a little bit better here. As you can see, my seller's disclosures here for my buyer to sign. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to simply drag that buyer signature onto the line. So we'll do Barry Buyer, but you get the general idea. I'm going to drag them right into place so that they can sign. Here's my witnessing over here, and then of course my auto date. So you just want to make sure you have a place for all 3 to sign. You can still go in and do the layouts, where you can save your layout so that the next time you use your purchase agreement, it's already tagged up for you. So those same options are right here. Once you have a place for everyone to sign, you've gone through, you're going to go ahead and hit that next. And this is where you can create that custom message I told you about, especially if you're sending it automatically to a title company or a lender. So what I want to do here is I want to click that custom invite. This is where I can put a personal message for each one of the parties. On my last class, somebody asked me, well, I have a husband and wife that are getting divorced. Can I put a message in for each party to see? And the answer is absolutely. And it's private for only that party. So I could put in a personal message for Barry Buyer here. And then I could put in a separate personal message for Mr. Buyer or Mrs. Buyer, whoever it happens to be. So I can actually add that right here. And then if I wanted to put a message in for Tom, the listing agent, I can do that here too. So it's really that simple. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to hit send. And now it's off for my buyer to sign. All right, and hopefully I didn't miss the H here. So let me open up my email and I'll show you exactly how that buyer is going to see it now. The nice thing to remember is if you are bringing in a PDF, like you are bringing in a counter offer, remember those PDFs will not be grainy like they were before. They're using higher resolution documents, so they should be much crisper and clearer. That was one pet peeve I had, or sometimes it would blow the document up massively. I hated that. And it would look very, very grainy, so that actually doesn't happen any longer. So when you're looking at your email, the one thing I want to point out is remember, we sent the seller's disclosure, right? Remember you saw me filling that out as the seller. And when I saved that, you can see that the agent got the notification that in fact the seller had opened it up and has saved the form, and it's now back in your TransactionDesk file. So the agent gets that notification. But if I go back to my inbox, you can see that it comes from you, the agent, by the way, because of course the seller has no idea who TransactionDesk or Authentisign is. So they get the invitation coming from you. Again, it does deliver your contact information, but all they have to do is click the Start Signing button. I probably should alert Tom that he's not getting a $3 million offer. Hopefully he's okay with that. And then they do get this. This is what makes it legal and binding in all 50 states. Basically, what this is saying is Congress passed 2 acts, the e-Sign Act and the UTA Compliancy Act, that says that as long as it meets these specific terms and they agree, that it will be legal and binding in all 50 states. So they're going to go ahead and hit I accept. And then I do put in my the subject line, read the documents first, because what happens is I want them to scroll through and I want them to read them before signing them. And here's why. Once they hit that signing, you can see it takes them to every single place, but it kind of jumps them around a little bit. And I want them to be able to read that first. So they're going to actually read it, and then they can go ahead and apply their signatures. Now, the first time that they go in, it does give them the option to use this pre-generated font. However, they can also now upload their real digital signature, or they can create a digital signature using their mouse or their touchpad. So all it's going to do is it's going to guide them to every single place for signing, and they're going to hit complete signing. That's it. It's still in beta, so they can print it off, download it, and even give how their signing experience was. Now what's going to happen is if I go back to my email, it's going to let me know as the agent that the first party has signed it. And of course, because I also said I wanted to witness my contract, it's going to come to me so that I can go ahead and complete the signing. So as you can see, it's now telling me right here as the agent that the signing has been completed by Barry Buyer. And because I'm now going to witness it before it goes over to Tom, I'm going to open it up and start signing it on my own. So I'm going to click Start Signing. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to accept. And I'm going to go ahead and start that signing process on my end. So it's really that simple. It does tell them how many items they have to complete. They can print it. But in this case, I'm going to show you the new rejection. So if they reject it, they can say, you know what, my name is spelled incorrectly. And it can even do other and put, I thought we agreed on less concessions, or whatever it happens to be. They're going to type that in, hit confirm, and it will stop the process immediately. So now it's not going to go on to the next party, which is Tom. Okay, so hopefully that gave you a look at what's new and what's exciting in TransactionDesk and Authentisign 2.0. So there's a couple of key takeaways. Again, setting up your packets will make it so much easier for you and your agents to be able to utilize all the forms that need to be created. If you don't have your forms libraries created, you can call us and we'll actually help you do that, or if you need to get them updated. Or again, if you're with an MLS that is getting rid of TransactionDesk, we would love to help you move all of your transaction files and your templates over. And we do that free of charge. We just want you to have everything you need so you don't miss a beat in your business. Okay, I see some questions here on signatures. Can you send all 7 or 8 documents that need to be signed in one email? That's a great question, and the answer is yes. You can add outside documents, and you can go through that whole document list, and you could pick, if even from the seller's disclosure, which was something we brought in or we migrated for you, yes, you can absolutely go in. You could send as many documents as you need, and you can even add additional documents to that. So really good question, Greg. All right, if there's any other questions, now is a perfect time to type those in. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, you lady with the fuzzy hair, you talk so fast. How are we going to remember all this? Well, good news. We actually created a YouTube channel that has this class that you're watching right now is being recorded and will be on YouTube so that you can go back and watch it at any time. It's MiRealSource Media is our YouTube channel. If you hit subscribe, it'll tell you when we upload this so that you can watch it as many times as you need. It will also alert you anytime new classes or new products become available. So all you want to do is you want to go to YouTube and you want to type in MiRealSource Media. Once you do that, there are these great playlists that I built. So all you have to do is click on the playlist. There's so many different playlists in here now, but you could actually go in and you could say, I want to see how to create cloud CMA and cloud CMA, or maybe I want to customize my showing time, or maybe I want to learn to use HomeSnap Pro. Just click on the playlist with the class that you're interested in, and it will start to play. You can watch it as many times as you need. But let's say that you watch that and you still have a couple quick questions. Keep in mind, you can actually schedule a free one-on-one with myself or with any of the trainers if you have a particular trainer that you like working with. I know a lot of people love working with Lisa, a lot of people like working with Debbie and many of our trainers. You can actually go to our Facebook page, the MiRealSource Facebook page, and you can request a one-on-one training with your favorite trainer, or even a staff person if that's easier for you. If you get along with a particular one of our tech support people, you can request them too. Let me show you our Facebook page and how you do that. I'll give you one more minute to type in those questions. All right. There we go. All right, so right on our Facebook page under services, you will see a whole list of classes that we offer. Now, this is really not where you take the classes. This is where if you watch the class and you still have a couple questions, like maybe you do a certain type of niche business and you're like, how do I incorporate HomeSnap in this? Or how do I do a particular thing? You can actually request, and it's totally included in your membership. There's no cost. It's completely free, but you can request on any of our products or services a one-on-one session where you can say, you know what, I used Authentisign, but I had a couple quick questions. Or maybe you had a couple questions on Authentisign and Cloud and Paragon. Just click on the button. It will ask you what date and time you want, and then a Zoom call will be set up so that you and that trainer can go over any questions that you have. So we know that some people are still not comfortable coming back in the building, and so we're trying to offer these services to make sure that we're answering questions even when you're working remotely. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any new questions, so I just want to thank everybody. Wait, one just popped in. Okay, can you show me what it would look like to set that up? Yes, absolutely. Let me bounce over here for just a moment and I will show you. So if you, and I assume what you meant was that I think it was Greg, hold on. So Greg, I assume what you mean is how do you add all the forms in the sending document, correct? Could you just verify that before I go down that road? Okay, perfect. So yes, if you wanted to send a bunch of outside documents and multiple documents, you're just going to go to the pen icon. Again, you're going to go ahead and hit the add, and I want to do it in the new Authentisign. Most important step, remember, is we want to marry the two. So we're going to call this, let's call it multiple documents so I can remember to delete it. I'm going to hit save. That's going to take me into the dashboard. To add those multiple documents, again, I've now tied it to the transaction. So I want to click add a form or document. All of those forms from my transaction are listed right here. So if I'm looking for that seller's disclosure, which I mentioned comes into the document section, that's going to be here. So as you can see, it says document right here. If I'm looking for the forms and I want to add all of those forms in here, very easy, just picking everything that I want to be part of what they're signing. There is one more thing, and I forgot to point this out, and I apologize. If you wanted to add outside documents, again, you could click that upload and you can drag and drop them, or just click, I want to add from my computer. Let's say you wanted to add, let's say I wanted to add this particular document. I can go ahead and click on it, bring it in. But there is one more item here that I didn't really cover, and I want to explain what it is. Where it says My Files, for the longest time, I could not understand why you would use this. But then the other day, I had a deal that came apart at inspection, and it finally made sense to me. So the My Files is if you have something in another file that you want to copy to this. So let me give you a good example. So in my example, I had a deal that fell through on 123 Main Street. But in 123 Main Street, I had the buyer pre-approval. I had a copy of his EMD. I had his buyer agency. Well, I'm not going to send all that stuff out and have him sign it again, right? I'm not going to want to upload it again into TransactionDesk. So instead of, when I create my new file, I just really want to copy some of the documents that were in that previous folder. So if my pre-approval was over here in my Lakeshore folder, I can actually go in and add it into this specific file or this specific signing, even though it's part of another file. So that's kind of what that's for. It's both in TransactionDesk and Authentisign. But Greg, hopefully that answered your question, because as you can see, I've now brought in seven different documents. So all you're going to do is you're going to click Add a Document, and it's just going to ask you, do you want to pull it from the transaction? Because all of those will be listed right here, forms and documents. And you'll see it'll say form next to some of them, and it will say document next to like the seller's disclosure and things like that. But it's mixing them all together. If there is an additional document, that's what this is for. And if you wanted to pull from another file, again, you could actually pull it in from a file that maybe fell apart. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. Greg, if you could just let me know if that answered your question, that would be perfect. All right, oh, perfect, awesome. If there's any, Steve, I see your comment. We would be happy to do this at your brokerage. We still are doing brokerage classes, so if you have a few agents who maybe are struggling, or maybe just not familiar, we know change is hard. So if you want us to come to your office, we're happy to do an in-office training, or again, we can even set something like this up. Or we can do it via Zoom so that they can be a little bit more interactive too. So hopefully that helps. You just let me know. I know change is always hard, especially coming out of a pandemic. Everybody's trying to get back to work and trying to figure it out. So we're here for you if you want to schedule a brokerage class, or if you just need a little extra hand holding. All right, well, I think that did it. Thank you so much for attending. I hope you get to enjoy this beautiful weekend, and I hope to see you all soon.